Rosey, thank you for joining us at IT 360. I know it's not going to be a long one today, but I think to kick it off, do you want to just tell our listeners a bit about who Rosey Nathan actually is, where you come from, what you're doing?
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. And I love that you've prefaced it with it's not going to be a long one today. We shall see. So yeah, I mean, I've had 20 plus years across sales, management, working with everything from SME businesses up into large international fintechs and data and analytics organizations. So I started in freight forwarding and shipping. I then moved into legal and tax publication, then into fintech with SaaS businesses and expense management and in payments. My latest role was in property data and analytics, as I've mentioned earlier, and now I am the CCO and career mentoring specialist at Her Career, and I work in recruitment for Customise Talent Group. So I've had a couple of career pivots in my time, but certainly in terms of the New Zealand industry space and the types of customers and organizations I've worked with, a really strong understanding of everything from one-man bands up to really large corporates.
So recruitment, this is new for you. I mean, you've obviously done recruitment in your career because you've got a very huge career and you must have hired and fired people throughout your corporate life. But being formally on the other side of the coin, this is a new environment for you. How do you find that?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. For me, in terms of working with organizations, it's always been around understanding what challenges people are facing, what efficiency opportunities there are, and how to make teams work really well together for a particular objective or outcome or target. And, doing that in several different ways across my career in terms of products and services. And now with recruitment, it's so much more about, in terms of the candidate, supporting them in their next career steps, giving them all of that advice, and with organizations, making sure that they understand the process, that they're putting their brand out there in the most user-friendly way, but that they get the best human talent fit for their businesses. If you don't have that right fit of skills and culture and collaboration, then one or two bad people within an organization can really change the dynamic hugely. So I feel a huge amount of responsibility for that. And that's definitely an area of speciality for me, understanding the types of people that work really well together and how they can do that and the skill set that they can bring into an organization to complement what's already there.
I want to pick up on that. You just said, having the right skill set and culture. Now, I come from an SME background. And I'm currently in SME with IT 360. And majority of our clients are small, medium businesses. And a lot of them are family-owned businesses as well. I'm sure your company does recruitment for SMEs as well.
Yeah, a lot of them,
I think the first thing I want to touch on is what I've been seeing is that a lot of small businesses, because they're family-owned, will tend to do things sort of from the inside out. So a lot of the individuals that sit within key roles, like whether it's marketing or sales or design or operations, a lot of it would have been from within the business. So you end up being in the role by default, not necessarily by design. Do you see that trend shifting though? Are you seeing that small businesses understanding that there's more of a need for them to have specific strategic skill sets? Or are you seeing that they're sticking very much to an inward focus because of the lack of resources for recruitment? Because these are not big corporates, right? They don't have massive HR budgets and these recruitment budgets. Are you seeing any shifts in terms of that thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great question. And I think, the fact that SME businesses in New Zealand make up more than 90% of our commercial economy, what we do see in there is the usual amount of New Zealand ingenuity and pivoting to what customers need and what they want. But you're absolutely right. There's a sense of if there's nothing broken right now, why fix it or why spend money on it? And I think a really good example of that is, just because you want to be able to accelerate and go out and service your customers in a better way and make sure that they're getting the full complement of what it is that you can offer in the best way. So there are efficiencies if you've got people with the right skill set and the ability to do that job with a wider network of contacts that are very specific to that industry. I think, Jess, you're a key example of that in terms of how you joined IT 360 and really advocated for what it is that you bring from a marketing perspective, and have now unlocked all of these doors that people didn't understand were an opportunity. I've come into recruitment at Customise Talent Group, and we're all independent contractors. And I'm really the only person that's joined the business in 11 years that doesn't have a recruitment or HR background that's purely been focused on that. But so much of what I've had in terms of sales skills, of marketing skills, I've been able to bring that along to this new position and use them all together. So what I'm seeing in SME businesses is, yes, there's a bit of both. There's people that want to hold on to doing things the way they've always done them, but I'm seeing a key shift because of technology, especially for collaboration. There've been those last few late adopters or non-believers in flexible or remote working, but we've seen really significant shifts change and happen when, seemingly overwhelming challenges face us, like we had with COVID, of course. So for a lot of SMEs, their ways of working have been just because, we've always done it this way. But I have seen businesses shift. They've taken this time to review and acknowledge gaps or understand the friction points where things have been clunky in the past. And they've now opened these opportunities to review, and that can be for cost saving or delivery improvements. And, there's this false sense of economy. There's a cost for recruitment. Yes, but if you get the wrong person in, that can absolutely ruin, 5 years of great work of putting a great team together. And unfortunately, more of us, rather than not, have seen that happen either in a business that they've worked in or through network connections.
So have you also seen movement of, say, professionals going from big corporates wanting to work in SME? Like, I made the conscious decisions. I've always come from a corporate background, and I wanted to deliberately move into SME. Do you find that there's that shift with a lot of professionals, whether it's in marketing or finance or sales, sort of making that move from big corporates into small businesses instead, to sort of either put a stake in the ground or find that maybe their skill sets can be better utilized in that environment?
Yeah, I think what we've seen a lot of recently is that shift out of corporate into startups. So not necessarily, a SME that might be well established, but people going, I want to do something that I feel complete creative control over and have autonomy and can do things with the flexibility that I want for my own life. So they take elements of what they've understood in their professional experience to date and really try and work that into a lifestyle. So a lot of people also going into consulting. But yes, you're right. There are still some people as well that are looking for something that's a little bit more, I've talked with a lot of businesses, and once you get to this, 20 people, 50 people, 150 people, and then beyond, those are very different landmarks, and those are kind of where businesses start to shift and change. So you might have someone that's been in a really large corporate environment that wants to go to what they'd consider a SME, but to them that might be 100 people, versus others that are like, no, a SME to me is 10 or 12. So you've also got to be really careful about what you mean by that, and what's the turnover, what's the business, what's the profitability. So there are so many different elements, and I think outside of just the work environment within their own businesses, they're looking for how they can connect with their clients and the audience and telling better stories. So they want to be able to really be a part of how they put those solutions together for their customers. I think when a lot of people move from a corporate environment into a SME, that's what they're looking for, an ability to add a wider amount of value into more touch points of what they do on a daily basis.
Okay, well, I want to talk about something that's possibly very close to your heart, is sales. So you come from actually a sales background.
Oh, yes, lots of it. Yeah.
And I know you are an exceptional salesperson. So what are you seeing as the shift in the sales mentality? Or are you seeing it, especially from affecting small businesses? Are you seeing any shifts within that environment, particularly, with SMEs, because they don't have those budgets of corporates? They have to do a lot more careful planning. They can't afford to lose, revenue or lose customers. I think their nurture programs are pretty good. They tend to hold on very well onto these customers. But have you seen any difference in how the sales mentality has shifted between small, medium businesses, especially over COVID, I think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this touches a little bit on what I was just starting to talk about too, in terms of understanding your audience. And SMEs have usually been really good at that. So you talk about the retention piece, right? So, I think it's more about, they can get caught up too much in sharing their features and not their benefits, but more organizations are understanding that that's what they need to do, that they need to tell a story. I encourage businesses and salespeople to go out and make sure that they've drilled into that what's in it question for me. So, really, what is it about for your customers? They might read something on a flyer, but if you can't answer the question, so what, for an individual, then there's no real sales value there. So you need to know what your customers are going to receive from those products and then move that forward. So in terms of how they are shifting that in terms of SME, they're getting that messaging right with better accessibility to marketing tools. So yes, they might not be marketing maestros, but there are so many tools out there now in terms of things like Canva that can make flyers and brochures and headers and any type of collateral look the part, and there's great templates. So that's telling part of the story. It's getting out and networking, and I think more businesses are joining groups and hubs and meetups where they can share their stories in a more authentic way, but very, with the people, the right audiences that will impact them. So I think, New Zealanders, SMEs are networking a lot better than they have, even if that's via video chat. I've never been in so many large group video chats than I have in 2020. And I literally used to deliver training over a decade ago via webinars, which was just the huge thing back then. So yeah, this shift in mentality is really around understanding the tools correctly, getting that message to market and making sure that it's consistent with their actions. So
what makes your company so different? Because I think a big thing with SMEs, and we see it even with our own company, a lot of times we will do our own recruitment. And we've got a pretty good operation HR team. But a big part of that is because as small businesses, we don't want to fork out the money to pay the commission and things like that. So we figure we can do it ourselves. The upside, yes, we save the money. I suppose the downside to that is we may not necessarily have the right skill sets in knowing how to select that right candidate, right? How to do credit checks and those little nuances that you have to look for in a candidate that is so specific, whether it's case studies or whatever. So what makes your company then so different in terms of being able to help businesses like us? Why should I pay you? Why should I hire you?
Well, I first and foremost, I think it's a great story to be able to tell that Customise Talent Group has been in the New Zealand market for 11 years, and we're New Zealand owned and operated. And the managing partner of Customise, he placed me in my last role. So to come out of being a candidate and then deciding to work with the organization and understanding that transition of skills that I could take into this business was really important to me, because I know that there are so many recruitment organizations out there that have given recruiters a bad name. You know, it's people have had terrible experiences. People haven't heard back from recruiters, or they haven't been supported through the process, even as companies who are paying the commission. You know, no one really should feel that way. So what I love is that we get into our organizations. You know, we really partner with them. We see ourselves as an extended part of that business for those that don't have internal recruitment or HR teams. And even for those that do, we work collaboratively alongside them. So we can do the search, the seek, you know, going through the entire process, really qualifying before your manager spends time on the first interview. So I know both myself, when I worked, you know, in large and small organizations, there's only a certain amount of people that you can see, and you will get inundated with the wrong types of CVs. So we can get a huge number of responses from our ads, but we'll still go out and we'll search the market through the networks that we have and make sure we've got the right fit for the job. We can do that in a way that is understanding of what the businesses are and what you need to perform and who those teams are, but with a view of a wider market for you. So, you know, we're saving you hours, absolutely hours, and just getting the right people in front of you for a really efficient time frame. And then we're here to support you through those choices. You know, you go through a first interview and a second interview with a candidate. You need to be able to speak to somebody that understands, you know, the bigger picture of other businesses and what they're doing and how they're placing and why someone might be a good fit as well. So
I think
we offer so much support.
Yeah, I think that's an important point though, right? Because you spoke about it earlier, where you spoke about tools. And you use Canva as an example. So a lot of businesses be like, well, we've got Canva. Anybody can learn how to use Canva. That automatically makes you a designer. No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
You know, I remember when I worked in big corporates, if somebody had an event idea, they're like, oh, ship her to Jess's team. She could be in marketing. And I'm like, actually, no, she can't be in marketing. You know, marketing is not about pretty pictures. Probably about 5% of what we do. A lot of it is the strategic thinking. Do you think then that maybe that's where SMEs are missing out, is they're focusing on too much around those tactical things that they think their internal resources can do, as opposed to saying, let me look more to the medium and long term, and if I get the right person with the right skill set, that's the longevity that my company needs and deserves. Do you think that's the big hurdle they need to maybe cross over?
I think the hardest part is that they are spinning their wheels in business as usual, right? So there are so many different parts of an organization. And if you look at all of the touch points, and recruitment probably doesn't come up every day for a SME. So when they are considering that, it's gone, what did we do last time that we hired the best person that we have here? But, you know, and having conversations in both larger and small organizations, it's funny how often it comes up that, gosh, you know, they're the best employee we never knew we wanted, and someone that they might not have considered. But they have to be able to look at, you know, taking a step back from the cart with the square wheel and listen to some people who understand the process. And just, I think, yes, you're right, understanding the process. So we run some education points around that, around how, you know, to manage the candidates correctly, how to interview. We give people interview tips if they're not very sure on how to do that. Some of our consultants will sit in on interviews. We'll even go through the performance reviews or any performance issues. So we have a full scope, right from, as I said earlier, seek and source and search, through to, you know, supporting customers that we have on the books that have been partners of ours for years, and they don't want to grow that internal recruitment and HR team. They know that we're that extension for them, and basically everything in between. We have customers who are like, no, just do the sourcing, we'll do the interviews, just send us CVs. So it's really kind of anything. I think that's the beauty of what we offer, is it's modular, and we can work out different plans for different sized organizations. If someone's employing only a couple of roles a year versus, you know, hey, we're going through a time of a phase of growth and we've got 10 roles happening in this 6-month period, of course we'll help you. You know, what can we do to partner and do that in the best way and make sure that that fits for you?
That sounds great. Okay, so some parting words, knowing that, you know, I think if anything, 2020 has taught us, it's about having the right skill set, having the right people.
Yeah.
And, a lot of companies have either had to retrench or they've realized a lot of the individuals were just not skilled in the right things. And, they should have been upskilled. To be honest, people can be upskilled.
Yes.
What is your top tips for small businesses moving into 2021 when it comes to making sure that they have the right skill sets, and how to embrace recruitment companies such as yourselves even more? What would be some tips that you can give?
I've got 3 tips that I thought about this, and these are more general tips too, and I'm happy to drill into them with anyone that wants to get in touch a little bit later. But when we talked about tips for 2021, I wanted to take a step back and really do a business value add as well. So, one of the first tips I think is incredibly important is to never stop learning from your customers. So if you can deliver an experience that they enjoy, they will usually come back for more. And so having the right people in the right places to deliver that experience, and to have the right conversations at the right level. There's no point having a technical call center when you have people that don't understand the software or whatever it is that you're selling, right? So 2 is to stay focused on your own niche. Sometimes people try to do everything for everyone, but know what you do and articulate that clearly and do it exceptionally well. And then you can, take small steps from there. And you're just making sure you do have those right skills in the business. I know we've talked about this. So where are the skills? Where are you looking at other businesses within your industry and thinking, wow, they're doing that amazingly well? Where are those gaps for you in your own organization? That's a really good place to start to uncover where you might need support in those areas. And when you do fill those skill gaps, make sure that you're creating a safe and fun environment. People also have choices of where to work these days. It's not the same as, it's a two-way street, that used to be people would stay in a role for 20 years. That's certainly not the way that it is now. So create a safe space for your staff. So you'll create this loyalty and increases productivity and just makes people want to come to work. So they're a good example of that.
Okay, awesome. Well, Rosey, if any of our listeners or readers wanted to get in touch with you, how can they reach you?
All of the ways. So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and I am Rose-Marie Nathan, also Rosey Nathan there, and we'll give you some links. But also Rosey, that's ROSEY at customisetalent.com. So you can drop me an email there.
Awesome. Okay, we'll be sure to include that on this video for everybody else. But thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll catch up for some coffee really soon.
It was such a pleasure, and I can't wait for that. Thanks.
Thanks, Rosey. Bye.